Hello, welcome. Have you ever stopped to think about how a simple challenge can completely change a life? In today's story, meet a magnate who, upon accepting a bet, discovers that wealth and power mean nothing without love and redemption. An emotional narrative, full of twists, that will keep you hooked until the end. Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications so you don't miss any content, and let us know in the comments which city you are watching from. Get ready for a story that might transform the way you see life. What if someone's life changed completely because of a seemingly silly bet? Lucas Marshall, an arrogant magnate, always had everything under control. But in a moment of impulsiveness, he accepts a challenge that could shatter his worldview. He finds himself in an unexpected situation, marrying Chloe Richards for 6 months, a woman who doesn't fit the beauty standards he has always valued. This bold choice puts Lucas on a path he could never have imagined. Known for his coldness and for winning every challenge he faces, Lucas feels threatened by Chloe's confidence and determination. In a world where appearance is everything, he sees her as a project to be shaped, but soon discovers that Chloe has her own strength. She is not willing to submit to the rules he imposes. Their relationship starts as a game but quickly transforms into a battle of wills, where each tries to influence the other. As Lucas attempts to convince her to adapt to his luxurious lifestyle, Chloe firmly resists, revealing truths about Lucas's past that force him to confront his flaws and fears. Lucas's journey becomes a quest for self-discovery. He begins to realize that life is not just about winning or losing. As the months pass, Chloe prompts him to face the consequences of his actions, including the destruction of his family's business, a trauma he would rather forget. What once seemed like just a bet now transforms into a lesson about respect, love, and redemption. The environment around them is filled with luxury but also superficiality. Lucas is surrounded by people who flatter him for his wealth, yet none truly care about who he is. The initial interactions between Lucas and Chloe are tense and filled with provocations, and every exchanged word is a step toward deeper understanding. Chloe challenges his beliefs and forces him to look within himself. Soon, what started as a temporary contract evolves into a genuine emotional connection. As Lucas learns to let go of his desire for control, Chloe reveals secrets that shake his world and challenge his perceptions. When the truth about her past comes to light, Lucas realizes he must fight not only to regain Chloe's trust but to redeem himself as a person. In the end, both discover themselves in ways they never expected. What began as a simple bet leads them to a new chapter together, where the promise of a future based on love and renewal becomes the true victory. The story of Lucas and Chloe is a reminder that sometimes the greatest challenges in life can lead to the most profound transformations. Lucas Marshall never imagined that a simple bet could drastically alter the course of his life. He had always been the king of control, the magnate who ruled over business and relationships. However, by accepting the challenge of marrying Chloe Richards, he found himself caught in a game he didn't fully understand. Initially, the idea of shaping Chloe to his image seemed like a fun project, but soon he realized that his new wife was not someone who could be easily molded. In the early days of their marriage, Lucas tried to impose his rules. He took her to luxurious events, introduced her to influential people, and expected her to feel grateful for being by his side. But Chloe was not the type of woman to be swayed by superficialities. She dressed simply, preferring authenticity over ostentation. Their interactions were tense, filled with provocations and misunderstandings. In his arrogance, Lucas couldn't understand why Chloe was unwilling to adapt to his world. The situation became even more complicated when Lucas started to notice that Chloe was not just an ordinary woman. She had an inner strength and intelligence that challenged his worldview. At a dinner, while Lucas tried to impress her with his business stories, Chloe interrupted him. "Do you really think what you do defines who you are?" she asked, with a penetrating gaze. This question echoed in Lucas's mind, forcing him to confront his own beliefs. At the same time, the atmosphere around them began to feel oppressive. Lucas's friends, who had once been a source of support, started to criticize Chloe. "She's not the type of woman you should be with, Lucas," one of his friends commented dismissively. This kind of talk began to create growing tension between Lucas and Chloe. He found himself torn between what others expected of him and what he felt for his wife. The emotional challenges were not the only ones Lucas faced. The pressure to maintain his image as a magnate began to affect his work. Business meetings became more stressful, and to his dismay, he started making mistakes. The pressure to be the best began to turn into anxiety. He found himself in a destructive cycle, where the fear of failure paralyzed him. Each passing day, Lucas struggled against the feeling that everything in his life was spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, his relationship with Chloe began to deepen in unexpected ways. In a moment of vulnerability, she shared a painful part of her past, a betrayal that left her afraid to open up to someone again. Lucas was taken aback. He had never considered the fact that Chloe might have her own wounds and challenges. This revelation made him question his approach. He realized he needed to be more empathetic, not just a man trying to mold the life of the woman around him. But as their connection grew, other obstacles emerged. The pressure from Lucas's friends increased, and he felt that Chloe was becoming a target of their criticism. The one who should have been his partner began to feel isolated. In a heated argument, Chloe confronted him. "If you can't stand by my side when things get tough, then what are we doing here?" Her words hit him like a punch to the stomach. Lucas realized that in his quest for control, he was about to lose the only person who truly mattered. This internal battle intensified when Lucas was faced with a new failure at work. An investment he was sure would be a success turned into a disaster. It wasn't just a matter of money. It was a blow to his ego. He felt like a failure, and at the same time, he remembered Chloe's words. It was time to reevaluate his priorities and confront his fears. These experiences forced him to reflect on his life and beliefs. Lucas began to understand that success wasn't just about winning, but about building authentic relationships and facing difficulties head-on. He realized he needed to change his approach, not just toward Chloe, but also toward himself. Lucas's journey was just beginning, but he knew he had to face the challenges ahead. He was determined not only to redeem himself, but to become the person Chloe deserved. The path would be difficult, full of failures and new beginnings, but Lucas was willing to fight. And deep down, he knew that true victory would be finding a balance between his success and his new life alongside Chloe. Lucas Marshall was at a crossroads, his life unfolding in a tangle of challenges that forced him to confront his limitations. The pressure to maintain his mogul image was becoming unbearable. Each day, the failures at work left him more anxious and insecure. He began to feel that not only his career but also his marriage was at risk. The feeling of failure consumed him, and he found himself trapped in a cycle of self-criticism and despair. That afternoon, after yet another stressful day, Lucas decided to open up to Chloe. "I don't know how to deal with all of this anymore," he confessed, his voice almost a whisper. Chloe looked at him with a mix of concern and understanding. "Lucas, you need to stop hiding behind your image of success. What really matters are the people by your side, not what others think." Her response made him reflect. He knew he needed to change, but doubt still consumed him. Meanwhile, Lucas's friends continued to exert their negative influence. One of them, Jake, who had always been his right-hand man in business, began to question his choices. "Do you really think this woman is good for you?" "She doesn't belong in your world," Jake said with a tone of disdain that made Lucas feel small. Jake's words echoed in his mind, creating a fissure between him and Chloe. With each criticism, Lucas found himself more divided between what he felt and what others expected of him. The interactions with Chloe, once filled with tension, began to grow more emotional. One night, after an event where Lucas had tried to impress his friends with a new acquisition, Chloe pulled him aside. "You don't need to prove anything to anyone, Lucas. I'm here for you, not for what you have," she said, the sincerity in her gaze making his heart race. But doubt still loomed over him, and Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that he was letting her down. The pressure at work intensified. Lucas began to feel exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Sleepless nights became common, and anxiety followed him constantly. He found himself revisiting past mistakes, a vicious cycle that kept him trapped in his thoughts. During an important meeting, he got distracted and missed a crucial point that could have saved a significant contract. Despair consumed him, and Lucas felt like he was sinking in a sea of frustrations. It was in this moment of weakness that he received an unexpected phone call from his mother, who was concerned about his emotional state. "Lucas, I can see you're struggling. Remember, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Life isn't just about achievements. It's also about love and support," she said. Her words touched him deeply, but doubt still persisted. He wondered if Chloe truly loved him, or if she was just trying to adapt to a world that wasn't hers. The emotional impact of these experiences began to manifest physically. Lucas started to feel constant headaches and a tension in his chest that wouldn't let him be at peace. He knew he needed to seek help, but his proud nature prevented him from admitting that he was struggling. In the midst of this internal battle, a new failure at work threatened his position. A project he had promised investors didn't deliver the expected results, leading to a series of tense meetings and open criticism. He felt like he was falling into an endless abyss. Chloe, noticing the change in Lucas, decided to intervene. "You need to talk to someone." "Lucas, it's not shameful to seek help," she insisted. However, his resistance was palpable. He didn't want anyone to see his vulnerable side. This situation culminated in an intense argument. "Why can't you just trust me? I'm here to support you, but you need to put your armor aside," she said, frustration evident in her voice. Her words echoed in his mind, and Lucas realized he was pushing away the only person who truly cared about him. That night, as he sat alone in his office, Lucas reflected on what Chloe had said. He couldn't continue living to please others or hiding behind a success that didn't bring him happiness. It was time to confront his fears and open himself up to the possibility of failing. He knew he needed to change, but that would require courage and the willingness to be honest with himself and with Chloe. Lucas decided it was time to make a choice. He needed to free himself from the weight of others' expectations and find a new path. That morning, when he woke up, he felt a new determination. He was ready to set aside his pride and seek professional support. More importantly, he was willing to open up to Chloe, not just as her husband, but as a man learning to be vulnerable and accept his imperfections. The road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but Lucas was finally ready to face them head-on. Lucas woke up that morning with a different weight in his heart. After weeks of internal struggle, he had finally decided to seek help and open up to Chloe. When he sat down for breakfast, he saw his wife preparing the meal with a gentle smile, but there was a worry in her eyes that he couldn't ignore. It was time to be honest, not just with her, but with himself. As they had breakfast, Lucas took a deep breath. "Chloe, I need to tell you something," he began, his voice trembling. "I'm not okay. I feel like I'm failing at everything. At work, in our marriage, at being who you need me to be." The words poured out of his mouth like a torrent, and he felt an immediate relief in opening up. Chloe stopped, looking at him intently. "Lucas, I've noticed. I'm here to support you, but you need to let go of the idea that you always have to be strong." Their conversation deepened, and Lucas began to share his fears and insecurities. He talked about the constant criticism, the pressure he felt to maintain an image of success, and how it distanced him from who he really was. The feeling of breaking apart in front of her made him feel vulnerable, but also relieved. With every word, Chloe encouraged him, showing him that he didn't need to be ashamed of his failures. However, in the midst of that revealing conversation, Lucas's phone rang. It was an unknown number, but he answered without thinking. The voice on the other end was grave and serious. "Lucas Marshall, we need to talk." "It's about your project with Company X," said the man. Lucas's heart raced. He had invested everything in that project, and the possibility of a problem sent a chill down his spine. "What happened?" he asked, trying to stay calm. The man explained that a significant financial error had arisen that could ruin not only the project, but also Lucas's reputation in the market. He felt the ground open beneath his feet. The sensation of failure hit him hard, and the conversation with Chloe seemed distant, almost irrelevant in light of this new reality. He quickly said goodbye and hung up, looking at Chloe with a vacant stare. "Lucas, what's wrong?" Chloe asked, noticing the change in his expression. "It's everything I feared," he replied, his voice faltering. "I could lose everything. My job, everything I've built." He felt trapped in a nightmare, surrounded by despair and guilt. That unexpected revelation shook him to his core, making him reconsider his choices and what success truly meant. In the following days, Lucas spiraled into stress and anxiety. He felt like a failure, unable to cope with the pressure. Every meeting he attended felt like a burden, and the thought of losing his company haunted him. He began to question whether he was truly capable of leading, whether he deserved the respect he had earned. Jake's words echoed in his mind, amplifying his insecurity. "You don't belong here." The pressure affected his health. Headaches became a constant, and the tension in his chest accompanied him day and night. That's when he realized he needed to change his approach. He could continue to sink into criticism and fear, or he could use this situation as a catalyst for transformation. The reflection led him to understand that true success wasn't about maintaining a facade, but about being authentic and seeking support when necessary. That night, while Chloe slept beside him, Lucas made the decision not only to open up more, but also to seek professional help. He needed to understand his weaknesses and learn to deal with them. The weight of others' expectations and opinions began to slowly dissipate, giving way to a new perspective on what it meant to be successful. He realized that true success wasn't the amount of money or status he accumulated, but the ability to face his challenges head-on, learn from them, and above all, be true to himself and to the people he loved. It was time to set aside pride and embrace vulnerability. And by doing so, Lucas felt as if he were finally beginning to break free from the chains that bound him. With a new sense of purpose, he turned to Chloe, who was still sleeping peacefully. He knew that regardless of what happened in his professional life, she would be his anchor. He smiled to himself, feeling that despite the storm approaching, there was a light on the horizon. It was time to start over, not just as a magnate, but as a man ready to face his truth and embrace life genuinely. In the days that followed that decisive night, Lucas began to experience a new reality. He woke up with a mix of anxiety and hope. Although the challenge at work was still present, he decided he would not let the pressure take control of him. He made a conscious effort to connect more with Chloe, sharing his feelings of insecurity and, at the same time, his plans to seek professional help. She listened attentively, offering unconditional support and reminding him that he was not alone. On one of those days, while they walked together in the park, Lucas saw Chloe smile as she watched the children playing. Their laughter was contagious, and he felt inspired by that simplicity. He wondered if he was letting life pass him by while worrying about things that, deep down, perhaps didn't matter that much. Chloe nodded, saying that life is made of moments like that, and sometimes we need to stop and remember what really matters. Lucas began to make small changes in his routine. He signed up for therapy sessions, and with each meeting, he felt a little lighter. The therapist helped him explore his deep emotions and understand that being vulnerable was not a sign of weakness, but rather a way to strengthen himself. He started to realize that the expectations he placed on himself were often unrealistic. During one of these sessions, he recalled a childhood moment when he had hurt himself playing ball and, instead of hiding, ran to his mother for comfort. It was that kind of honesty and openness that he needed to reclaim in his adult life. However, every step toward healing was not without obstacles. At work, the pressure mounted as the deadline to resolve the financial error approached. Lucas found himself surrounded by worried colleagues, and the tense atmosphere caused his old fears to resurface. He began to question whether he could truly face the challenge. On one of the toughest days, he locked himself in the company bathroom, taking deep breaths and trying to calm his racing heart. He thought of Chloe and the support she offered, which helped him regain his composure. He decided that instead of distancing himself from his colleagues, he would try to get closer. In a meeting, he raised his hand and, instead of just presenting solutions, also shared his insecurities about the project. He admitted to being afraid of failing, but stated that he was there to work as a team. To his surprise, some of his colleagues opened up as well, sharing their own concerns. That conversation became a collective turning point, where everyone realized they were in the same fight together. But Lucas's personal life was not without challenges. Despite his efforts to open up, he noticed that at times Chloe seemed distant. One quiet night, while watching a movie, he realized she was lost in thought. He asked her if she was okay, concerned. She hesitated, but decided to share. She expressed her worry for him, saying that sometimes she felt she was losing him while he tried to handle everything. Her words hit him like a punch to the stomach. Lucas felt guilty. In his journey of self-discovery, he didn't want Chloe to feel neglected. He took her hand and looked into her eyes, assuring her that he didn't want her to feel that way, that she was his greatest strength, and he would strive to remember they needed to face this together. That conversation brought a new understanding for both of them. They promised that even in difficult times, they would keep communication open and honest. Despite the challenges, Lucas began to find balance. He set aside time to connect with Chloe, such as walks in the park or simple dinners at home. He also dedicated himself to work, actively participating in meetings and seeking creative solutions to the problems he faced. With each small victory, he felt he was regaining control of his life. As time passed, Lucas realized that true transformation was not just about facing his fears, but also about cultivating meaningful relationships. He learned to appreciate simple moments and the importance of being true to himself and others. And as he overcame each obstacle, his confidence grew. Lucas knew there was still a long way to go, but each day he felt more prepared to face the challenges ahead. He had learned that life was a journey filled with ups and downs, and no matter how difficult it was, he didn't have to face everything alone. With Chloe by his side, he was ready to embrace the unknown, prepared to build a future where vulnerability and honesty were the foundations of his life. Chloe nodded, emphasizing that life was made up of moments like this, and that sometimes we needed to stop and remember what really mattered. Lucas began to make small changes in his routine. He signed up for therapy sessions, and with each meeting, he felt a little lighter. The therapist helped him explore his deeper emotions and understand that being vulnerable was not a sign of weakness, but rather a way to grow stronger. He started to realize that the expectations he placed on himself were often unrealistic. During one of those sessions, he remembered a childhood moment, a day when he had hurt himself playing ball and, instead of hiding, he ran to his mother seeking comfort. It was this kind of honesty and openness that he needed to reclaim in his adult life. However, each step toward healing was not without obstacles. At work, the pressure was mounting as the deadline to resolve the financial error approached. Lucas found himself surrounded by worried colleagues, and the tense atmosphere caused his old fears to resurface. On one of the hardest days, he locked himself in the company bathroom, breathing deeply and trying to calm his racing heart. He thought of Chloe, the support she offered him, and that helped him regain his composure. He decided that instead of distancing himself from his colleagues, he would try to connect with them. In a meeting, he raised his hand and, instead of just presenting solutions, he also shared his insecurities about the project. He said he was afraid of failing, but was there to work as a team, his voice trembling slightly. To his surprise, some of his colleagues opened up as well, sharing their own concerns. That conversation became a collective turning point, where everyone realized they were in the same struggle together. However, Lucas's personal life also faced challenges. Despite his efforts to open up, he noticed that at times, Chloe seemed distant. One quiet evening, while they were watching a movie, he realized she was lost in thought. He asked her if she was okay, concerned. She hesitated but decided to open up. She said she was just worried about him, that sometimes she felt like she was losing him while he tried to deal with everything. Her words hit him like a punch in the stomach. Lucas felt guilty. In his journey of self-discovery, he didn't want Chloe to feel neglected. He held her hand, looking into her eyes, and told her he didn't want her to think that way. She was his greatest strength, and he would strive to remember that they needed to face this together. That conversation brought a new understanding for both of them. They promised that even in difficult moments, they would keep communication open and honest. As time went on, Lucas began to find a balance. He reserved moments to connect with Chloe, like walks in the park or simple dinners at home. He also dedicated himself to work, actively participating in meetings and seeking creative solutions to the problems he faced. With each small victory, he felt he was regaining control of his life. Lucas realized that true transformation was not just about facing his fears, but also about cultivating meaningful relationships. He learned to appreciate simple moments and the importance of being true to himself and others. As he overcame each obstacle, his confidence grew. He knew there was still a long way to go, but each day he felt more prepared to face challenges. He had learned that life was a journey filled with ups and downs, and that as difficult as it was, he didn't have to face everything alone. With Chloe by his side, he was ready to embrace the unknown, prepared to build a future where vulnerability and honesty were the foundations of his life. On the day the deadline to resolve the financial error approached, Lucas felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. The pressure in the office was palpable, and the weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. He knew he needed to confront not only the complicated numbers but also the internal fears that haunted him. The morning started with a meeting where everyone was tense. Lucas looked around and saw worried faces, as if each person carried an invisible burden. The voices were low, and the atmosphere was charged with expectation. When it was his turn to speak, he felt his heart race. He said they needed to find a solution, that he wanted to help, but was struggling to understand everything. The reaction was immediate. Some colleagues looked at him in surprise, but others began to open up as well. One by one, they shared their own uncertainties, and suddenly that moment of vulnerability transformed into a collective conversation about the difficulties everyone was facing. Lucas realized he was not alone. The connection that formed in that cramped office space was like a breath of fresh air, and he felt a new energy rising within him. Throughout the day, Lucas dedicated himself to teamwork, collaborating with his colleagues in search of solutions. They spent hours analyzing data, discussing strategies, and finally finding a way out of the problem. When they finally managed to resolve the issue that had troubled everyone, a wave of relief swept through the room. Lucas felt an indescribable satisfaction. It was not just a professional victory, but an emotional achievement. He had faced his fears and opened up to others, creating bonds he didn't know he needed. However, as the day went on, Lucas realized there was still a challenge to face: his relationship with Chloe. The pressure from work was starting to affect them, and he feared that despite his efforts, she still felt left out. He decided that he needed to be honest about his feelings, just as he had learned in therapy. That night, as they were getting ready for dinner, Lucas took a deep breath, recalling the support that Chloe had always offered him. "Chloe, I want to talk about us," he began, his voice laden with sincerity. She looked at him, a mix of curiosity and concern on her face. "What's wrong? You seem different." "I feel different," he replied. "I've overcome some things at work, but I'm still struggling to feel good about myself. And more than that, I don't want you to feel left out. You are very important to me." Chloe was silent for a moment, processing his words. "I just want you to know that I'm here always, but I also need you to let me in. I can't help you if you don't share what you're feeling." Those words resonated deeply with Lucas. He realized that even in his journey of self-discovery, there was room for Chloe. He didn't need to carry the weight alone. "I'll try to open up more," he promised. "I want you to be part of this." The conversation was a turning point. They embraced, and Lucas felt a wave of warmth and safety. Chloe was not just a partner, she was his ally, someone with whom he could share not only victories but also weaknesses. In the days that followed, Lucas continued to work on his personal and professional growth, but now with a new focus. He dedicated himself to building a stronger relationship with Chloe, setting aside time for moments together, and keeping the lines of communication open. At that tense moment, Lucas not only overcame a challenge at work, but also made peace with his vulnerability. He learned that true strength was not in hiding his weaknesses, but in sharing them with those he loved. Success was not just about material achievements, but about building meaningful relationships and finding support in the people around him. Lucas's transformation was not instantaneous, but the journey he undertook led him to a place of self-understanding and love. He now knew that life was made up of ups and downs, and that by facing challenges with honesty and openness, he could not only overcome his difficulties but also connect more deeply with others. What once felt like a burden was now becoming a source of strength, and as he looked at Chloe, he saw a future full of possibilities, where love and vulnerability coexisted in harmony. In the days that followed the heartfelt conversation with Chloe, Lucas felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in a long time. He woke up every morning with a renewed sense, as if each day was a new opportunity. At work, the atmosphere had changed as well. The team, now more united, was focused not only on results but also on caring for one another. Lucas noticed that the vulnerability he had shared with his colleagues created an environment of support and understanding. One morning, while having coffee with his colleagues, Lucas heard laughter and lively conversations around him. He remembered how, before, tension dominated those interactions. Now, everyone seemed lighter, more willing to collaborate. He felt part of something bigger. When a new colleague, Raphael, expressed his insecurity about a project, Lucas seized the opportunity to share his own experience. "I also felt lost at first. But if we work together, we can find solutions," he suggested, and one by one, others agreed, offering help and advice. The change in the office dynamic did not go unnoticed by the leadership. The manager, Mr. Almeida, called a meeting to acknowledge the team's efforts. What has happened recently has been more than just correcting a financial error. You have shown that together, you can overcome challenges greater than the numbers. Keep it up, he declared, and the applause that followed filled Lucas with pride. Meanwhile, at home, Lucas and Chloe were growing closer. He began to realize how small actions, like making breakfast or planning movie nights, created a stronger bond between them. One night, while watching a movie, Chloe turned to him and said, "You know, I admire how you've opened up. It seems like you're becoming stronger every day." Lucas smiled, warmth spreading in his chest. "I've learned that you need to be vulnerable to be truly strong, and you have been instrumental in this process." As time went by, Lucas continued to work on his personal growth. He started attending support groups, where he met others who also struggled with their insecurities. This helped him understand that everyone faces challenges, and that sharing experiences is a powerful form of healing. He often came home and shared his new discoveries with Chloe, and together, they talked about how they could apply these lessons in their lives. One day, while walking in the park, Lucas stopped and looked at Chloe. "You know, having you by my side has made everything easier. I used to think I had to face problems alone, but now I see that only brings more weight. You've taught me that we can be stronger together." Chloe smiled, her gaze filled with affection. "And I've learned from you too. Sometimes it's hard, but knowing we can count on each other makes all the difference." As the months went by, Lucas began to notice changes not only in himself, but also in his colleagues. The team had become more collaborative and communication flowed more easily. He knew he had contributed to this, but he also recognized that everyone was involved in this transformation process. When they found themselves in difficult moments, there was now a mutual support that hadn't existed before. One late afternoon, after a productive day, Lucas and Chloe decided to have a picnic in the park. As they sat on the grass, he looked up at the sky, reflecting on how his life had changed. "I remember how anguished and lost I felt," he said. "Now, I feel like I'm in a better place, not just at work, but in life. And that's thanks to you and everything I've learned." Chloe squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. "You deserve all of this, Lucas. Never underestimate how much you've evolved." Their conversation led them to discuss their plans for the future. They began to dream together, imagining trips, new projects, and building a life together. Lucas realized that true transformation wasn't just about overcoming challenges, but also about building something meaningful with Chloe. He felt that by opening up to others, he had created a safe space where love and vulnerability could coexist. Thus, Lucas's journey became a story of growth, love, and overcoming. He learned that mutual support and honesty are essential to face any challenge, and that by sharing his struggles, he not only found strength but also created deeper bonds with those he loved. Life, which once seemed full of obstacles, now presented itself full of possibilities, and Lucas was ready to embrace them alongside Chloe. Lucas had come a long way since the dark days when he felt lost and alone. The journey that began with an honest conversation with Chloe transformed into a process of self-discovery and overcoming. He learned the importance of opening up, not just to others, but also to himself. The work environment, once filled with tension and insecurities, now reflected the unity and support he had helped cultivate. The change wasn't just in his behavior, but in the heart of each team member, who now felt more connected and willing to face challenges together. Over time, Lucas realized that small daily actions, like listening and offering help, created unbreakable bonds. He remembered Chloe's words, which encouraged him to be more vulnerable and accept that strength lies not in hiding weaknesses, but in recognizing and confronting them. This new perspective not only strengthened their relationship, but also inspired others around them. Raphael, the new colleague, now felt more comfortable sharing his own insecurities, and Lucas was there to support him, just as Chloe had done for him. On a sunny day, while enjoying a picnic in the park, Lucas reflected on how life had changed. He realized that true success wasn't just about achieving goals or recognition at work, but about building meaningful relationships and having a positive impact on the lives of those around him. Chloe, by his side, represented everything he had achieved: love, friendship, and the ability to open up to the world. With Chloe's support and the experiences he shared with his colleagues, Lucas felt stronger and more confident. He understood that each day was a new opportunity to learn and grow, both personally and professionally. Vulnerability, which once terrified him, was now a symbol of courage and authenticity. He had transformed into a leader, not by title, but by his actions and the way he touched the lives of others. What once was a burden had now become a source of strength. Lucas not only overcame his insecurities but also became a beacon of hope for those around him. He understood that life is made of new beginnings and that every failure brings valuable lessons. The wisdom he gained along the way encouraged him to continue helping others and to never underestimate the power of mutual support. At the end of that day in the park, Lucas held Chloe's hand and expressed his gratitude. "Thank you for being by my side. You not only helped me find the light at the end of the tunnel, but you also showed me that true happiness lies in sharing life with someone special." Chloe smiled, and together they looked at the horizon, dreaming of the future that awaited them. Lucas's story is a powerful reminder that vulnerability can be the key to true strength. We all face challenges, but by sharing them, we build deep connections that can transform us. If you have also faced difficulties and found support in someone, share your story in the comments. Let's celebrate together the victories and lessons we've learned. Like and subscribe so we can continue bringing more inspiring stories like this. Your experience could be the spark someone needs to start their own journey of overcoming. Don't wait any longer. The time to act is now. What moment in this story touched your heart or left you speechless? We really want to hear your thoughts. Leave your comment below and share your reflections with us. Your feedback is essential for us to keep bringing exciting stories that impact lives. If this narrative moved you, don't hesitate to share the video with someone special. Together, we can spread messages of transformation and inspiration. And to not miss any of the incredible stories coming up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave your like. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next exciting journey.